Hi, I'm Katie,
And I'm Yarlin.
and this is Faye and Fables, a podcast hosted by two mental health counselors who take a psych deep dive into your favorite fantasy and romantasy books.
Yeah, so before we get into our episode, we do get into our disclaimers, mental health disclaimers, and some spoiler warnings. So please
Mm,
note this episode contains spoilers for books 1 through 5 of the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, including Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Assassin's Blade, and the first half of Queen of Shadows. Everything up to page 389.
yes, we
Uh,
wanted to be so specific about that.
yeah, we want to make sure everybody's on the same page here,
Mm,
literally. Additionally, several potentially triggering themes are discussed, including discussions of enslavement, colonization, violence and gore, injury, substance abuse, death, assault, war, torture, suicidality, possession, and imprisonment. Oof.
ooh.
Explicit language and adult content, including discussions of sex work and sexual content, are included in this episode. Even as a YA book, it's crazy that
Literally,
we have all these themes in here.
truly.
So for our mental health disclaimer, this podcast is hosted by two licensed mental health counselors, but it should not be used to diagnose, treat, or address any individual mental health concerns or conditions. The knowledge, opinions, and experiences we express related to mental health are our own and should not be applied as treatment. This is just for fun. If you feel that you need mental health treatment, please seek out your own individualized mental health care and take care of yourself. So, to get into the order of events of how we're going to go through today's episode, we are going to do rankings and ratings where we provide our ratings for the book. Then we go into our plots and thoughts analysis, where Katie will lead us through the events of the book itself, while I will guide us in better understanding the psychology of the characters along the way. Then we do our teehee moments, which are
Mm,
always a great time,
a journey.
a beautiful time. Then we go into our therapy deep dive. So I'll be able to expand out into the real world context and lead our exploration of mental health concepts and more of the character arc and the
Mm,
situations that they're going through. Um, Future thoughts and theories, and then our final reminders and social media shout out. So
yeah.
that's how we're going to go about it today.
Yes, I'm so excited. I feel like Queen of Shadows is I love all of the Throne of Glass series, but Queen of Shadows is where I really start getting like intense with it. I was telling
Yeah.
Yalen before we started recording, I go down like a
Mm.
mind spiral once you hit Queen of Shadows. So I'm so ready for this.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun time. Definitely lots of stuff happening, but you get so invested in the characters and what's going on.
Mm.
It's in another level for sure.
Oh, yeah. And to help us start kind of like our journey into all of these characters and topics, we're going to zoom out and go for our rankings and ratings, which is where we talk about our star ratings and our chili pepper ratings. Star is kind of overall, chili peppers is related to the spice level, which if you've been listening in the YA journey has been interesting. It's helped us reframe what we
Yeah.
view as some spicy content. So I'm curious, Yarlin, what were your star and chili peppers and what got you there?
Yeah. So for my star rating, I did give this one a 4 out of
Mm,
5.
okay, a
You
little bit
know,
of a downshift.
yeah, I mean, I did think there was a lot going on,
Mm,
for sure. And I just felt like it wasn't as an impactful 5-star read as maybe like Air of Fire was or something like that for me.
okay.
But I mean, it was still a good book for sure.
Mhm.
Chili Peppers, I gave it a 2 out of 5 because we had a little bit extra here.
Mm, we got a little taste. We got a little
Yeah.
snippet, a little something, a little
Yeah.
spice.
It got me going a little bit for sure.
It gave me a little tingle to read about all
Yeah.
the touches and the like stairs across the room. That was
Mm.
very That was very spicy. You can tell we're
Yeah.
really digging deep here
Yeah.
for these moments. But yeah, I was also a two chili pepper. I was in a two chili pepper space.
Mm.
I feel like it definitely did warm up a little bit. The tension was
Yeah.
there. There were some
Mm.
things, and we'll get into what those things were. But that really elevated it from the like 0 and 1 that we were
I
living
agree.
in the first part. Um,
Yeah. Because we finally
and
have, like, a character who's giving it all.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this because I know we've been on a journey of, is it
Who's
Dorian?
Endgame?
Is it
Yeah.
Kale? Is it Sam? Is it Rowan? Who is it?
There's too many
There's
to keep
there's too
track.
many. Um, and I know this is going to be a huge shock to everyone. And you, Yarlin, I gave it 5 stars because
Yeah.
I'm a simp for this series. I love it. Every time I read it, I think I remember how much I love it, and then I start reading it, and I get even more obsessed. So I'm I'm in there. I'm ready. And
Yeah.
to your point, I think there are several really interesting characters, all with their own arcs
Yeah.
and development, and it, I think, is one of Sarah J. Maas's strengths that she is able to incorporate arcs for all of these characters and the ways that they intertwine and
Yeah.
impact each other. I just think that's it's a strength of hers, along with the intricate sort of lore and magical systems.
Yeah, and that's why these books are so hefty because,
Oh,
girl.
she's a hefty girl. She is. And
Yeah.
this actually is a good moment while we're talking about the heft of the book to discuss how we're going to be approaching the Throne of Glass books moving through the end of the series here. So, if you've listened to us up till this point, you know that we love to get in depth. We love to dive deep and talk it out.
Mm.
And that's a long episode
Yeah.
for a regular size book. Now that the Throne of Glass books are getting bigger and bigger, it's getting
Mm.
harder and harder for us to rein in the length of the
Yeah.
episode. So we're going to be splitting out Queen of Shadows into part 1 and part 2 of this book. Um and so what you're going to hear today is going to be Queen of Shadows part 1. So I'm going to go through the plots and thoughts for, as we mentioned, the first 389 pages, which this book actually did us a favor just by being split into part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then in our next episode, we will go over the second half of the book. So just note that you might see that this episode is a little bit shorter in nature, but that's because we wanted to like give folks time to think about it, to process it, and to really delve deep, still keep it a deep dive.
Mhm.
As these books get bigger and bigger, which I think especially is going to be a help to us as we go for like Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and ultimately Kingdom of Ash, which is
Oh
like
my
900
gosh.
pages long. So,
Yeah.
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 So, I'm going to start us kind of where we are at top of Queen of Shadows. And as I always like to do, and this is getting actually harder and harder to do, so at some point the way I do this might have to change, but we're going to start with I call them like Aelin and Friends perspective, and that is Aelin, Kale, Adian, and Dorian's perspective, kind of as they interweave. And then we are going to be talking about, and I did learn and double check, it's Manon, not Manon. I spent a whole episode saying Manon. I am forever apologetic. I have atoned for my sins, and now I'm gonna say Manon.
Did you do audiobook for this one?
I listened to a snippet. I
Oh,
just
okay.
waited until she said Manon, and then I said,
Mm.
"Oh, Piscatios." I
It
I
happens.
I done messed up. So Manon and a lead, who's a character that we get sort of some information about later. So we have their perspective, and then that will take us through the first part of the book. We open our literary adventure to Aelin, who has dyed her hair red and is going incognito in Rifthold, and it particularly is in the vaults, which are, if you remember from Assassin's Blade. I don't know if you felt this way. I loved reading Assassin's Blade right before this. This is the first time I've done it in that order.
Yeah,
Reading Assassin's Blade right before this book
I
made
liked it.
everything yes,
It
same.
made sense.
It well, and all the characters were so fresh. I really like that we did that.
Yeah.
So Aelin is in the vaults, which are these seedy sort of underbelly of Rifthold area. Her hair is dyed red. It's cut shorter than it was when we were introduced to her at the top of the series, and she is scoping out the vaults because she wants to meet with Arabin Hamel, who is number 1 on my shit list forever and ever. I
He sucks for sure.
he oh my god, the end when and that was the other thing. Reading Assassin's Blade before this, I was fresh off that rage. I
Mm.
was I was just remembering him standing on the rooftop at the end of Assassin's Blade saying, "I could save her, but I'm going to let her go to End-of-Year."
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
Oh, I so I opened this book. I was pissed. I was like, "Arabin, you
Yeah.
jackass." So, Arabin is sitting in the vaults hosting these meetings cuz he's, overlord of whatever whatever. And the reason she's there watching Arabin is because she realized in the Heir of Fire that he has the Amulet of Orinth, which is a royal heirloom of her family and of Terrasen, and contains one of the 3 word keys that Aelin needs to find. So it's high stakes. She's only there near Arabin because she's got to be.
Mm.
And we see pretty quickly that not only is Arabin a traitor to everything good in this world, but he's a creep.
Yeah.
He's possessive of her in a way that's like tinges on sexual even from the beginning, and he's really smarmy. He apologizes to her about everything that has happened even
Yeah.
though he's the one that made it all occur. um
Literally.
oh it he's so smart. I literally I have so many feelings about Arabin that I
Yeah.
didn't have the first time I read the series because I hadn't read Assassin's Blade.
Yeah, and
Anyway.
his weird attraction for her, it was just so the lines were so blurred most of the time, and I obviously, for Aelin too, or Selena, she
Mhm.
felt that way too, where it's like she just didn't know whether it was like an actual attraction or if it was like a father figure. Like I can not imagine like being in the middle of that.
Oh, absolutely. And the possessiveness. It's like
Mhm.
gross. It's smarmy. So Aelin and Arabin talk, and he offers to help her to save Adian, who, if you remember, is in the dungeons in the castle at Rifthold. And in return for his help, she needs to bring him a Valg. He wants to get a hold of a Valg infected person
Uh-huh.
to basically interrogate them and find out what's going on. She really doesn't want to do this, but she eventually agrees because she sees no other way forward. And it is feels like an extension of so many times at the end of Assassin's Blade when she didn't really want to be engaging with Arabin, but she finds herself having to go into these deals in order to get her goals met. So Aelin, while she's waiting to meet with Arabin, she sees that Kale is also meeting with Arabin, and she's like, "You dumb asshat! Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing around this man?" But Kale, in the time that Aelin's been gone, has been hunting down Valg nests and Valg infected guards who are working for the King of Adarlan. Um, and he's been doing this with his second in command, Nesrin Falik. Nesrin is also a guard. She's not infected by a Valg, and she represents some of the old guard, like the good guards before the new, like bad Valg guards come in.
Mm.
And she's essentially a spy for Kale. She brings information to Kale about the workings of the castle, but she's also, has to do her shifts as a guard at the castle and all that. She's described as having shoulder length, dark hair, olive skin, and ebony eyes. And her family owns bakeries in Rifthold and in other places. And they originally were immigrants for the southern continent. The reason that I'm highlighting this is it becomes a bigger part of the reason she engages in this rebellion with Kale and why she's interacting and doing what she's doing. It's out of care and concern for her family and for her community. Once Kale and Aelin are away from Arabin because they can't say anything, they're not going to. Aelin doesn't acknowledge him and actually hides from Kale as he leaves. But once they regroup and find each other, Kale is pissed, which always surprises me. I'm like, Kale, what's going on? He's pissed at Aelin,
Yeah.
one for leaving, which is so fucking rich coming from the dude who orchestrated her leaving. And he's pissed because she's not coming back with supplies or information or an army, which again, you
Like
have
he has
what?
high expectations, like, and
Dude,
he
and
yeah.
we've read Air of Fire, we know what she's been through, and he's like, "Well, where's the army?" And it's like, "Bro,
What are you doing?
what you're in sewers killing people, sure, like you're a part of this rebellion, but where's your army? Why don't you grab me an army real
Yeah,
quick?"
I definitely did not like him in this book.
Oh,
Mm.
Kale pisses me off in this book. He's another one. It's like Airbin's at the top, and Airbin's way up there, but Kale's also on my shit list for a lot of
Yeah,
this.
he's almost, like, really stubborn and
Mm,
annoying.
yeah, yeah, and whiny, and I think
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually he gets called on that a little bit and gets humbled a little. But right
Yeah.
now, he's having a full blown pity party,
Mhm.
and in addition to him being pissed about no supplies and her leaving and all this, he's pretty he's afraid and almost bigoted toward Aelin because of her magic. He thinks that
Yeah.
it's unfair for some people to have magic when all the other like human normies don't, and he fears what she's going to do or who she's going to become when she unleashes this power. He does not trust her and he thinks of her as dangerous.
Yeah. Which I'm just like, how is that her fault that she has magic and other people don't? How what is she supposed to do there?
Literally,
She's
to
trying to
me,
save people and get back to her lands, but
literally, like that's like being like, Yarlin, how dare you have brown hair? Like, what can I do about it? Like,
what can I do about it? Yeah.
sorry, this is how I was born. I have
Yeah.
to do something with this magic.
I'm
And
sure I'm sure
yeah,
it was just a shock for him that he like once knew a version of her and it ended up being like she's totally a different person.
yeah.
So I guess, but
Sh-
also like get it together.
Get it get with the program and get over yourself.
Yeah.
To Nezrin's credit, she kind of does that to him later. She's like, "Get your shit together, man." But at this point, pity party central. He's not happy. And
Mhm.
and I don't think Aylin's happy with him either. Aylin is angry at Kale for being such an asshole about magic. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to do. And at this point, magic is still locked down in Rifthold. So she shifted into her human form. She's not as fast. She can't use her magic. So it's just like, eh, what do you want me to do, man? Like I'm working within the structures that exist. I
Yeah.
have magic, I can't get rid of it, and I'm not really sure.
Yeah, he's thinking too much in the future and like the possibility of
Mhm,
her almost like being evil or something, you
yeah,
know? So,
and I think it okay, if I take his side for, like, a hot second, which I don't wanna do, but, like, for the analysis, he's seen her as Selena as well, and, like, it
right.
is remarked upon that her Selena persona is quite cold, quite joyless, quite, like, um, uh ruthless. And
Yeah.
so I think if we try to pull some empathy for him, I can see him being afraid of her remaining as Selena and having all that power.
Right.
And what you and I and everyone who's read Air of Fire knows is that she's been on her healing journey. And like, why don't you
Right.
give her a chance to show you the work that she's been doing all these months that you
Yeah.
say that like there's no work happening here? Like, why don't you take a second?
Yeah, and that's it's so crazy because like that is something that you can take even into the real world
Mm,
like therapeutic space of like someone maybe being a certain way in the beginning, they go through their healing journey, and maybe some people in their lives either don't see the progress or don't notice certain things. So they just have this idea and vision of who this person is and the way that they act, but they're not giving them the benefit of the doubt or even the opportunity to change and see them in a different light. So I definitely was just like, not for Kale.
Mm, I love that you point that out because it speaks to how intangible the emotional work is sometimes. Like if
Yeah.
I work on a project and it's like carpentry, I can like show you a chair at the end of it and be like, this is what I've been working on. For folks who are doing emotional work, it can be really hard f- to see kind of outside of how they are interpersonally the work
Yeah.
that's been happening. And I think sometimes friends or family members will just be like, you're different, like what's happening, like it feels
Yeah.
disorienting, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm changing and I'm different, and that's a result of the work that I'm doing.
And all that, pushback and questioning can also discourage the person from continuing their healing journey or their
Hmm.
work, because it's like people don't have faith in them. And that's where it can be really difficult to have your support system be part of your process.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's where like shout out to friends and family who are supportive of therapeutic change. We
Yeah.
love to see that
Yeah.
as counselors. Um, but yeah, so they're both angry at each other. I would say Aylin's handling it better. She's trying to be mature about it. I don't think Kale is necessarily as much.
Yeah.
But in spite of their butting heads, they do exchange information and they are helpful to each other. Aylin tells Kale about the Wordstone collars. That's what she saw with General Narak back in not Dornell, Wendelin. No, Mist Ward. There we go.
Mm.
It's Mist Ward is in Wendelin, but I want to get specific. Um, and Kale catches her up on everything that's been happening with Dorian and Adian, which is essentially that Dorian is being possessed by a Valg prince through a
Yeah.
Wordstone collar. Adian's in the dungeons, and because Aelin saw this with General Narak, she basically tells Kale like, you have to kill Dorian. If he's possessed by these Valg princes, based on what I've seen, he's gone, and the best thing you can do is kill him. And
Oh.
Kale is not having it. Which,
Yeah.
if it were my BFFFF, like Kale and Dorian have been besties, and
For
this
a
is
long time.
the one action I can, the one thing I can kind of get on Kale's team, which is Kale defending Dorian and not wanting to give up on him. That I think is noble, even if it comes out weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're working together, but they're butting heads pretty consistently.
Yeah, and I think we see that Kale and Aelin are at odds since they first see each other.
Mm.
So I have a quote from page 122 that Aelin says to Kale, "You bring my court into this, Kale, and I don't care what you were to me or what you have done to help me. You betray them, you hurt them, and I don't care how long it takes or how far you'll go. I'll burn you and your God's damn kingdom to ash. Then you'll learn just how much of a monster I can be."
Ooh,
So here we
chills.
are. Here we are. And Aylin's not messing around. He brought this out in her because
Mm.
she's like, okay, you keep calling me a monster, you keep calling me bad, then maybe I should be. Maybe I should be.
Well, and it's in defense of her people. Like that's when you want to see Aelin get, because Selena's murderous no matter what. You want to see Aelin get murderous, threaten her people,
Yeah.
and Kale makes that mistake. Kale, I think he says something about like Adian or something.
Mm.
He goes after somebody, and then immediately after she says this, in his head he's like, "I've made a huge mistake. I've made a huge mistake," and it's like, yeah, Kale, don't
Like,
fucking forget who you're
yeah.
talking to.
Yeah, like shut up at this point. Like
Like, shut your pie hole and reflect before you speak.
Yeah.
But
And
he's
at this
not.
point,
Yeah.
just follow the plan, set your priorities straight, because Aylin has her priorities straight here. She
Mm,
knows what she's after, she know what she needs to do.
mm,
And he's just not there.
no. Okay, and then I do wanna pull one more empathy feast for Kale. This becomes a theme. Aelin has plans and she doesn't tell anybody. That is
Right. Yeah.
she I think her growth edge is, like, you need to learn to talk to people about your
Yeah.
plans. She's not super good at that because she had to be alone for so long and rely on herself, and she doesn't want people to get hurt. It's all good reasons, but, like,
Yeah.
I think he does have one point about her sharing more with people around her plans and her inner workings because
Yeah.
she pops off sometimes. You don't quite know why.
And I think Adian also has that issue with her too,
Mhm.
where
Oh,
she
yeah.
kinda goes off and does this and that, and he's just like, um,
Oh, help.
yeah,
What's yeah,
yeah, so he gets
which
pretty upset with her.
oh, yeah. Kale's not the only one who's upset by that particular element. Kale's just really whiny and annoying about it, I
Yeah,
think.
so she can definitely work on that, but, it's part of the process. I did think it was interesting the
Mm.
wordplay about her saying, "And I'll burn you and your goddamn kingdom to ash." And it's
Mhm.
funny that the last book in the series is called Kingdom of Ash.
Oh, very interesting.
I connected that and I was like, "That's very interesting."
I
That
know.
it's like the same wording.
I know nothing. I know nothing. I'm just out here vibing, and I think that's a nice little piece you
I know
highlighted.
it's something. I have the feeling I know it's something. She wouldn't
You're
put that in there just for it to not be something.
mhm. Yeah, I'm here. I'm with you, and I have no thoughts in my head about what that
Yes.
might mean. But I'm a
It
we're
is
gonna
noted, and we'll
we're
move on.
yeah, we're gonna drop that nugget right there, and then we're gonna skip on down the road. So once Aelin agreed to Arabin's deal, which again she was hesitant, but she went for it. Lysandra makes a reemergence, which, if you're just coming off of Assassin's Blade, that she is the dark haired, green eyed, big bosomed courtesan who foils Aelin throughout Assassin's Blade. So Lysandra rolls up to Aelin's house. And this is a shock to, I think, the reader and to Aelin because it's kind of like, what do you have to say to me, Lysandra? We're not friends.
Right.
But Lysandra surprises Aelin and us by showing up to her door with Evangeline, who is her protege. Uh, it- Lysandra has taken Evangeline under her wing and is acting as her protector. And while Aelin doesn't trust her initially, I think Evangeline gives her just enough pause to be like, "All right, what is it you want to say to me?" Lysandra ends up giving Aelin a letter from Wesley, uh, and Wesley was Lysandra's lover. Wesley, if you remember, was also Arabin's number one guard.
Mm,
And in Assassin's Blade, Aelin had determined that Wesley did not care about her and did not like her. So
yeah.
she's it's now confusing because it's like Lysandra doesn't like me, Wesley didn't like me, what's going on? But in Wesley's letter, he details every part of Arabin's betrayal of Aelin. We find out that Arabin had told Rourke Farron not only to torture Sam, but in what ways to torture and kill him. And Lysandra tells Aelin that they ended up becoming lovers. Lysandra and Wesley did, and that Wesley was planning on rescuing Aelin from Endivere, that he knew that Aelin had been betrayed. And so it's this huge paradigm shift for Aelin, one about who Lysandra is, kind of, and also in a big way about who Wesley was and who Arabin is. She still is like, she's like, I don't know if I'm gonna believe any of what you just fucking said. This all could be a trap. But she learns from Evangeline that Lysandra had scarred Evangeline's face so that she
Oh yeah.
wouldn't have to be a courtesan. And that's Evangeline is a beautiful girl. She's got this like beautiful, I think it's just got described as like red or strawberry blonde hair, but she's
Mm,
got these vicious scars down her cheeks. And she learns that Lysandra basically gave Evangeline a choice. Evangeline came to Lysandra and said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a courtesan. And Lysandra said, okay, we can prevent that, but it's going to really hurt. And Evangeline said yes. And she scarred her to prevent her having to do sex work. And then Lysandra took on Evangeline's debt. So whatever money Evangeline would have made their madam, Clarice, now Lysandra took it on, and
mm,
she's going to be in Clarice's debt for many more years after that. Once Aelin learns all of this and they have a moment, Aelin and Lysandra decide to be friends, which we've tracked Aelin's feelings about friendships across these books.
yeah.
I think this is a really big turning point for Aelin, that it's Aelin that chooses to kind of let Lysandra in,
And
and
trust her, yeah.
they become fast friends. I love Aelin and Lysandra together. They're just
Yeah.
like,
They were really cute.
yeah, and they're girly girls together. Like they're like, you
Yeah.
want to eat chocolate and like read little spicy books and have little chitty chats, and they just enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, I thought that was really nice too, and a big moment just to have a whole shift in more of her openness for female friendships and just see that in her past or in those
Mm,
experiences that not everyone was against her. Especially the Wesley guy, because I
yes.
remember when Arabin was kind of setting up that trap for her to get taken or whatever. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I recall Wesley being like, "Oh no, don't you know it's a?" And then it was she was like he was like cut off by Aelin saying
Mm-hmm.
something, and then ultimately it seemed like he was trying to warn her that it was a trap, but
Yes, that's quite literally what he was trying to do. He's like,
yeah,
I think he said something to kind of like, think, Selena,
yeah,
stop for a second. And she was like, oh,
she was too
Wesley's an ass.
pissed.
She was she was on the warpath.
Yeah,
It was too late. But I think that's what it's finding all of this out is a confirmation that that's what Wesley was trying to do, because you never
yeah.
totally find out. You get the feeling like he was trying to help, but this kind
Yeah,
of
and
sets
he
it in.
probably had to protect himself, and also, he was the the guy for Arabin, so it's like he was pulled in different directions, but also I'm sure he had some type of conscience to not
Mm.
fuck over everybody.
Well, and I think too his relationship with Lysandra, it sounds like, warmed him. Now we don't ever see firsthand Wesley and Lysandra together. It's all through Lysandra's perspective, but
Mm,
she talks about the fact that when they became lovers, she found out how deeply he felt about the betrayal, and I think they warmed each other up a little bit, and that's ultimately what ended up getting Wesley killed. He killed Rourke Farron in sort of as justice for Sam, and
mm,
then Arabin killed Wesley.
yeah.
So it was just sort of like a murderous betrayal upon betrayal. Um, in the midst of Aelin and Lysandra becoming friends, they have to be very careful about that because Arabin is always watching. He knows everything. And he sent Lysandra to Aelin's place. Uh, and this is set, he says this, and or an alien says it, I think, at some point too, almost as a gift. He kind of was hoping that Aelin would murder Lysandra. So he's not a benevolent guy for bringing them together. He was hoping that they would that Aelin would kill Lysandra. And every time they speak or Lysandra is near Aelin, they have to be really careful about how they're appearing in public. So they start working together. They want to take Arabin down together. and they now that they're
Girl
friends,
power.
yes, yes. Ladies, 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 let's stop fighting each other and let's get our power together and destroy those who would seek to oppress us. That's what they said verbatim. That's not verbatim, but that was the spirit of the thing. Um
Yeah.
and throughout this, Lysandra and Aelin working together, Arabin just you keep seeing him being a creepy cutthroat dude. He's had Lysandra as his courtesan for all these years, and so she's having to basically have sex with him, and these in these power play games. It's just gross. Um, and so there's kind of two there's a few irons in the fire, and the two main ones are how are we going to kill Arabin and get the amulet of Orinth, but also how are we going to save Adian. So Kale, Aelin, and Nezrin, along with other rebels, prepare for Adian's rescue. They're like, okay, we got to get Adian back, then we can worry about Arabin and the amulet. And that's because Adian is supposed to be killed at Dorian's birthday. So they don't got a lot of time. They don't got a
Yeah.
lot of time. And in addition to the Adian rescue and Amulet of Orinth business, Kale tells Aelin that if you destroy the Obsidian Clock Tower, magic will be free. So that list we have of our like magical to-do list just got increased.
Yeah. They got a lot of stuff to do, and
they
it's
got they're
difficult to
busy.
do them.
Listen, when I look at my to-do list and then I look at Aylin's, it puts things in perspective, you know? I'm like,
We got it
go
easy.
pick up the prescriptions, go to the grocery store. Aylin's out here destroying clock towers and
Freeing magic.
yeah. Excuse me, excuse the shit out of me. So when they go to rescue Adian, Kale says to Aelin, "Do not hurt Dorian." And Aelin says, "I'm going to try my best, but you should know that it would be more of a mercy to kill him than keep him alive. I'm going to do what I can, but
Yeah.
just know you're not doing him any favors." And so Aelin
Mm.
disguises herself as a dancer with Madame Florine's dancing troupe. Madame Florine, also in Assassin's Blade, she gave her little dance lessons. Um, and so Aelin puts on this costume, this disguise. She gets all painted up. Her and Madame Florine have a little chitty chat. And they all dance around the party. And all of a sudden, the dancers throw this blinding powder and create some chaos within
The party.
party. Aelin uses this chaos as a cover, in addition to some word marks, to free Adian, which is like a huge check mark
Yeah.
off of their list.
A big one. And something that I love about Aylin, is like her ability to dance and feel so confident while she's doing that.
Mm,
And it's something here where she continues to recognize her strength and power in page 141. As she's dancing, she's
mm,
telling herself this in her mind, this next quote. She was the air of fire. She was fire and light and ash and embers. She was Aelin Fireheart, and she bowed for no one and nothing, save the crown that was hers by blood and survival and triumph. So
mm,
it's just a powerful moment where she uses her body to feel confident and also as a weapon, as
mm,
we've seen that she's done that previously. So I love the connection of dance, power, confidence. We also see that in other books that we've read.
mm.
So I love that.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's such a turn from the Heir of Fire Aelin, who was in this dark pit, who was afraid of her own power, afraid of
Yeah,
herself. And
yeah,
this is a total 180 where she is embracing all
yeah,
parts of it, even the parts that can be overwhelming or scary for her. Like she's like, I am fire. Like this fire burns within me, and I'm gonna use it. It's what I was given.
mm,
Um, I love it.
I dig it.
I too dig it. And so Aelin and goes to free Adian, and Adian immediately is like, oh my god, it's Aelin. And Adian's kind of hurt because he's been in the dungeons and he's been getting beaten
Beat
up.
up, yeah.
He was also fighting and got wounded. So Adian and Aelin are running out of the castle and onto the grounds. They're going to hop over the wall and into Rifthold. But who should they run into? But
Mm.
a Valg Prince possessed Dorian. And this is
Yeah,
such an intense moment, I feel like. Aelin really tries her best to see if he's in there. She's like,
yeah,
Dorian, Dorian. She's trying to recall, like, I told you I would come back. Like, she's trying to pull him out of this Valg. Um, and he's not there. Now what we know is he's fighting in there. Like he's in there in some capacity, but the Valg Prince has way too much
is
control.
stronger, yeah.
Yes. So she traps him with word marks, and is about to kill him. But Nezrin, who's up on one of the castle walls, fires an arrow, prevents her from killing him. And Adian and Aelin escape the palace and go back to her warehouse apartment. And so it's an important moment because I think in that moment it confirms for Aelin what she thought, which was he's not in there. And we see that Nezrin has Kale's back, that Nezrin's not going to let Aelin do something to Dorian without, putting up a fight.
Yeah,
So, and I want to take a moment because we see Dorian here from Aelin's perspective to give us a little look into what's been going on with Dorian. And we get his periodic POV, and they're not long chapters. You're not getting
yeah.
big windows into his experience.
But they're so impactful, and
Oh,
I was honestly more emotional for what he was going through. Like, I was
oh,
like, "Oh my gosh," I felt so bad for him.
I me as well. Like
Yeah.
he is really trying to fight the Valg inside of him, and when you start the books, you can see he has more sense of a fight or sense of himself, and slowly as you see his perspective, he's
Yeah.
losing sense of himself. He's losing sense of even his name or others' names, but
Yeah.
the Valg inside him is feeding off of his misery. The Valg Prince keeps playing Sorsha's death over and over and over again, and even when Dorian can't remember her name anymore, he
Yeah.
knows his despair is so deep and profound when this Valg is playing these scenarios over and over.
Yeah.
And in addition to what is happening internally, the Valg Prince is also making Dorian do things that are really violent and despicable. So it's like it's this weird place to be. I mean, weird isn't even the word. It's this just profound place to be where even in your own head is a battleground, not to mention all of the things that your body is doing without your permission. And like Dorian visits Adian at one point during his imprisonment, and each time Dorian runs into somebody he knows, people are trying to get him to take control by talking about Sorsha and Kale and Aelin and other people. But it never seems to work, and I think hopelessness sets in as the narrative goes on. Um and I think ultimately once Aelin is foiled and they escape, Dorian thinks he says to himself that he wishes she would have just killed him, that he's angry that she didn't. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's in the POVs of him. I felt so impacted by what he was going through, and like you said in that quote, he did say in page 176, but he wished she had killed him. He hated her for not killing him,
Mm.
because he recognized Aelin, and that's he honestly wished he would have been dead then instead of going through what he was going through. So as much as Kale wants him to be alive, like, you know?
Well, and at some point, it's like, who is this for, right? Like, Kale, is this
Right.
for you? Is this for Dorian? Are you trying to assuage your own guilt, or is this for Dorian? Dorian's sake. I also think Kale's never seen somebody like Aelin saw General Narak. She saw when she killed General Narak how relieved he was that he was
Right.
going to die. And I don't think Kale has seen that. He's seen Valg infected people for the most part. who have embraced the possession, or are so far gone that they can't show that regret. But
Yeah.
Aelin saw in General Narok's eyes the relief and pain of being possessed, and so I think
Yeah.
she's deeply impacted by that when she thinks about Dorian.
Yeah. But and this is his friend, so that's why he doesn't want to see that, and he's definitely
Mm.
guilty for leaving him in that scenario.
Oh, absolutely. So they get back to the warehouse apartment, and Kale is furious because Nezrin was backing Kale up. She told Kale what happened. He's furious that Aelin tried to kill Dorian. And what's so interesting here, and I loved this moment. He goes to Nezrin, and I think he sort of uses Nezrin sometimes for his own like emotional baggage. Like she
Mm,
kind of only exists for him when he's got something to complain about.
yeah.
And he goes to Nezrin to whine about it, to be like, how dare she, and whatever. And Nezrin kind of chastises him. She says basically, I believe in a better world. And if that's at the hands of Dorian, great. And if it's not, I'll find somebody else. You have to get over it. You have to adapt. The stakes are too high for me to hang my hat on one person to be the person to save the world. I'm going to go with who I think has the best shot at helping make my family safe, helping make me and my country safe. And we learn through her talking to Kale in this way that Nesrin was really heavily bullied for being an immigrant, and that she wants to change for her people. It's about more than her, and she wants to see a world where everyone can be safe and be happy and be successful in the streets of Rifthold. And if that's with Dorian, great. And if it's not,
Yeah.
like, okay, then we got to figure out something else.
Yeah, and that's where Kale, it's just like it's more than you. It's more than what you're going
Mm,
through and what you're feeling because there is a quote where it's said in the book, at least he couldn't hate himself any more than he already did. So
mm,
obviously, he's not happy with himself or his actions and he's being very self-centered in this moment and it's just like get a grip. Especially in situations like this where it's like there's a higher purpose and a goal that everybody's trying to do and you're just being a whiny
mm,
complainer, and that's very privileged of you to
mm.
just think of yourself.
And it's also, I think, really interesting to see, because that's a sentiment that's very close to ones that Aelin would have made in Heir of Fire. Like she says to Rowan at one point, "You can't hate me any more than I already hate myself, or whatever you think of me, I think worse." And
Mm,
so I think it's really rich that Kale is so shitty to Aelin about the work, the emotional work that she did in Mistward, when he's going through a similar process of a change in identity and navigating self-worth and self-hate in
yeah.
the context of shifting circumstances and shifting identities. So it's I think, again, if I'm trying to be empathetic with Kale, like the
As we always
counselor,
try to be.
that's the thing. At the counselor side of me, it
Yeah.
feels a pull to find empathy. The reader side of me, just the human, I'm like, Kale, you are so shitty. You take your trauma and you're shitty to other people with it. And I don't like that. I'm okay
Mhm.
if you feel big feelings. I'm okay if you're going through it. I start to struggle when you hurt other people with your trauma. And it
Yeah.
happens. We don't mean to, and it happens. And I think he just keeps harping on it. He keeps
Yeah.
and people are trying to get through to him. People are saying, like, you need to figure this out so that we can adapt and move forward. And I think that conversation with Nezrin is a big turning point for him, where he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, am I kind of being selfish about this?" And it's like, "Yes, Kale, yes." It's wild.
Right. So him hearing that from another perspective, especially from her, who he trusts and stuff, that's how he's finally able to get it together because he's pissing us all off at this point.
Well, and he's hampering the goals of the group. Like you're getting in the way. Now, ultimately, I will say, I think Kale's desire to save Dorian ends up being something that I agree with, and I'm not going to get into it,
Right.
but I end up being on that team. But it's I don't know. He at the beginning he gets on my nerves with it a little bit. So Adian is saved. He is wounded pretty severely in the rescue and just from his time in the dungeons.
Yeah.
So he has to kind of sleep it off and heal a little bit. But when he wakes up, Adian and Aelin have this very tearful and emotional reunion, and they essentially catch each other up on everything that's happened since they last saw each other as children. They just and they swap stories of their scars, and they it's
Mm.
just it's finally getting to lean on each other after so long spent apart, and honestly thinking that either one of them was dead or gone or whatever. um After that, Adian spends a good amount of time healing up and also whining about healing up.
He wants the
He
action already.
Oh yeah, he wants to be out there. He wants to be killing Valg, and Aelin a couple of times has to say to him, "You are no good to me if you stumble out there and get killed. Stop it." Like it
Yeah.
really it's just like be realistic, and she helps him with that. Um in the midst of now that Adian is saved and everything, things in other realms of Aelin's goals are going to plan. Arabin pops up his ugly little friggin' head and is like, "I'm mad because I don't have a Valg yet." And because Arabin can't just have his feelings, he has to be possessive and violent with it. He tells Aelin to come to the pits, which is a replacement for the vaults. By the way, a little detail that we're not going to get terribly into, but after Aelin went to go visit Arabin in the vaults at the top of the book, she destroyed the whole place. So now everybody in the seedy world of Rifthold is looking for a new place, and they find the pits, which are basically just fighting pits. And so Arabin tells Aelin to come on down to the pits to fight somebody in front of the owners of the pits, so that Arabin could show her off and be like, "Look, my fighters are so good. You should let me have financial stake in this place." Blah blah blah. Um, she picks and fights a Valg possessed man, and kills him, which further pisses off Arabin because what she could have done is injured him and given him to
Right.
Arabin. But Aelin has her own schemes. Um, and another interesting element that I think is a tie back is she fights in these pits under the name of Ansel of Briarcliff. So she fights as Ansel in the pits. When they ask what her name is, she doesn't give
Yeah.
her name. So I just thought that was an interesting little like Easter egg to
Mm.
throw out there. Um, During the fight, Aelin also learns that people who previously had magic before it was suppressed are the ones being turned into Valg, in Morath. This is important information for her because, one, it kind of keys her into what's going on in Morath, and we know that people with magic are the ones being targeted. So Aelin and Adian and Kale and Nezrin, they're like, they're starting to work together. It's not perfect, whatever. And who should roll up in the most beautiful, tearful way but Rowan Whitethorn, female. Oh yes. Oh yes. You can't see it, but we're vibing right now because Rowan
Oh, I
rolls
love
up.
him.
Oh my god. I Yeah. Yeah. I He makes me Twitter pated.
Mm.
Um and he's there. On the surface, he's there because Lorcan, another one of Maeve's cadre, another one of the Fey males who has a blood oath to Maeve, Queen of Doranel. I'm like putting in all the context there. Lorcan is in Rifthold to hunt down Aelin. Rowan found out about this in Wendelin, and so Rowan's like, I gotta get to Rifthold. I can't stay here. Also, he missed her.
Mhm.
He's into her, and he wants to be near her. Um so Lorcan is looking for Aelin, but also for the word keys so that he can destroy them, which is interesting because you think they all have to serve Maeve. They are blood bound to serve Maeve. But what Lorcan has done is kind of twisted the blood bond because they're bound to protecting her and all these things. And so Lorcan's kind of twisted it where he's like, if I find him and destroy the word keys, I'm protecting Maeve. So if I just am far away from her and that's my prerogative, the blood bond will allow that. Um,
He girl mathed it. He's like, if I do this, it still works out. It makes sense.
That is literally that's literally what he did. He said, listen, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free. He said, if you buy it with cash, then it's free. He said, if it's a 50% sale, then it's free. Um,
Basically.
yeah, and Maeve's not there to hand him his checkbook and tell him he's got to figure it out. So
Oh, that's too
oh,
funny.
that was so good, Yarlin. um, so Rowan is like walking down this alleyway. He's so mysterious with his hood, and like Aelin realizes who it is, and she gives him a big hug. And there's teehee stuff around that. I'm not gonna get too
Mm.
into it, but I feel it, feel it, feel it. And they reunite. And what's interesting is both of them are holding back on doing anything sexual because they want to protect themselves and each other. Stupid. Ugh.
Wow.
Why? I like just another barrier. Whatever.
Mm.
Um.
They're like, it's not the right time. It's not the right
Yeah.
location.
We
It's
just
never the right location. Throughout this whole book, it's never been the right location. We have to wait until we're here, and then it just
oh
never works out.
I can't distract her and she can't distract. It's like, y'all stop playing. Like
That would
stop.
release some tension. Y'all got a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on.
There's a lot going on and maybe you just need an attitude adjustment. You know what I'm saying?
Clear, start off fresh with a clear view of things. And
Yeah, that post, clarity.
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
that clarity that only comes with being with a fey male, a 500-year-old fey male who's got tattoos down the side of his face. Come
Oh
on now.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So anyway, they are both determined nothing gonna happen. But that does not stop them from pining after each other, having looks, having cute moments. And Aelin, the little minx that she is, even brings out like all her lingerie. She's like
It's like,
flouncing
for
around
what?
in it. For
You're
what?
not gonna do nothing.
Well, it's I don't know. I don't know what her end game is with that, but
It's a visual. It's a visual
yeah,
play.
I maybe she's hoping he'll make the first move. She's like, well, if he makes the first move, then maybe
Okay.
I don't know. But she's in her negligees and he's like staring up at the ceiling, just trying to think of like his grandma or something. Like he's like taxes. I don't know. But in addition to this tension that's happening between Aelin and Rowan, Adian and Rowan are also pulling some alpha male, fey male bullshit.
Yeah.
That's according to Aelin. That's she agrees with me on that one. They're like staring each other down. They're like, going chest to chest. You know when like dudes
Yeah.
do that thing where they like get
Which is
really
like,
close.
it's like, why?
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 Why
I
are we
don't get
doing
it. I
this?
did not get that when I was reading it. I'm like,
Dude. I
Adian
think
and
it's
Aelin are
supposed
family, so it's like,
yeah.
but maybe it was like a protection thing.
I think it was like who are we gonna be in her court kind of thing,
Oh, right,
like,
right, right.
and
Oh,
like what
because
roles are we gonna play?
Adian wanted that. He wanted like the bond thing.
Yes, he wanted that blood bond,
Yeah.
but Aelin had already given it to Rowan in front of Maeve when he took the bond to her, which
Yeah.
at the time she didn't know Adian was around.
Right.
She didn't really realize what was happening. So again, you can't really blame a girl. But from Adian's perspective, he's been waiting. He thought she was dead for a long time, and when he found out that she was alive, he was so excited to take this blood bond.
Right.
And the
But
old tradition of Terrasin is that you can only have one. But Aelin's like, literally, everybody could take a blood bond. Like it doesn't fucking matter.
right. I
this
was gonna s
tradition.
I was gonna say that they can do more than one,
Yeah,
so
it doesn't really matter. So they're working out their shit and they're trying to like whatever. I
mhm.
also did like there's a little line where like Rowan it says kind of to himself like Aelin keeps giving us shit for all this like fey dominant male bullshit, and he's like but she's pure alpha fey, like this girl also be out here playing power games. So I did like that part a bit, but I Rowan and Adian were being a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
um in while Adian and Rowan are figuring out how to work together, which they do ultimately, Aelin is also having some trouble because she keeps making all these complex plans and not telling anybody. She doesn't
Yeah.
rely on other people. She doesn't want to put people in danger. And even the reader, we as the reader, are not privy to what she's been up to, or we hear little snippets
Yeah.
until the action is over. And I think Adian is well within his rights when he talks to Aelin about it and says you do not have to keep doing things by yourself. Like
Yeah.
we're here now. I wasn't here for 10 years and now I am, and can you please let me like can you please let me help you? Um
Yeah, because she kept going to, like, the sewers or
oh
whatever to
yeah, she
go.
she was talking to people at the bank, she was going to the
Yeah.
sewers, everything what you realize, and we don't even have time to go into the full extent of all of every plan that she made, this little sneaky sneak. Everything she does, it there's a reason, and there's sometimes a double reason, so the stated reason versus the real reason, like and this is I think part of Sarah J Maas's genius. It's like everything is so plotted out and she's so good at obfuscating or obscuring the real point. So you as the reader, like when I read it for the first time, because I didn't know any like I didn't realize
Right.
that Sarah J. Maas does this, you're kind of led along the path with everybody else who doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And
Yeah.
so she'll include this random detail and you kind of forget it because you're like, I don't, that's not necessary. And then 200 pages later, you find out that that was the key to understanding what happened later. It's like, it's
Yeah.
wild. It's so cool and so wild. Um, so Adian and Rowan are figuring their shit out. Aylin's trying to figure her shit out. Add to that the fact that Rowan rolls up, takes a deep breath in of Adian's scent, not in a creepy way, but just sort of they're in the same space together. And Rowan's like, dude, do you realize who your dad is? And Adian's like, my mom never told me who my dad was. And Rowan's like, your dad is Gavriel, who's a part of my cadre, who is the lion shifter, if you remember from Air of Fire. And this blows people's minds. It's a mind blowing moment for everybody. It's for Rowan, who's like shit. It's for Aelin, who's like, how did I not see it? It's for Adian, who realizes that his mother never told anyone of his father and refused Fey healers when he was born, so that he could protect Adian from Gavriel's blood bond with Maeve. Like explosions in the brain are going off. I
Yeah.
mean, and for me as a reader too, I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this is all coming together in a crazy way. So truths are coming out. They're trying to figure out how to be as a court, and then who should roll up but Lorcan? And Aelin kinda knew he was around. She knew he was going to find her at some point, and she kind of goaded him into it. But Aelin and Lorcan, they have a couple of really tense run-ins where, at one point she like essentially tricks him into having all these Valg go after him, and then she gets manhandled by Lorcan because he's like being like, bitch, where's the word key? And she's like, I'm not telling you nothing. So he thinks he's doing the right thing by trying to find the word keys and destroying them. But Aylin's also like, I'm not giving you any word keys because you have a blood bond with an evil queen lady. And it's just like, well, I don't know if I would say evil. She very clearly is at least a little bit sadistic. And she doesn't trust Maeve. She's like, there's been a distrust between her and Maeve, and I'm not giving you the word keys just so they could be used by Maeve. Um, so yeah, that happens. There's all these moving parts, and then Aelin sets everything in motion to kill Arabin and blow up the obsidian clock tower. Things are happening.
Yeah, and I think this is an in between moment,
Mm.
either right before everything is blown up and all of that. But she mentions, every time I turn around, I feel like I'm one wrong move or word away from leading them to ruin. People's lives, your life depend on me. There's no room for error. So she feels this immense pressure to make everything work out with her plans, and
Mm.
she's having all this back and forth with Kale and just like dealing with everything. So, finally getting to this point of checking off the box of freeing the magic, like she's finally getting there. And we can see that she finally expresses herself and communicates everything that
Yes.
she feels and everything that she's going through. And maybe that's why she doesn't tell everyone her plans and what she's up to,
Mhm.
because she feels like one wrong move or one thing goes wrong in her plan and someone's life can end up um you know falling apart or someone dying. So it's just finally getting to that point is like we got there.
Mm. And she's being honest with herself about it. You see her evade, like when people try to
Yeah.
call her out for not telling plans, she's like, well, whatever. But you see in this moment that she is tracking. She's like, no, I know what I'm doing, and it's because I feel so much pressure to protect everyone, and I
Yeah.
don't know how to do that. There doesn't seem to be any good options, and so I think we see into again this behavior pattern of Aylin's, which we're a little bit annoyed by, but we could see where it comes from. We could see why it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things start going into motion in several different directions. The amulet, the clock tower, all of it. And that is when Arabin sends Aelin, Rowan, and Adian a dinner invitation. And all of the whole invite, everything apart about this is a message of control from Arabin. And Aelin knows this. She knows Arabin well enough to know that, like, even the fact that he invited the two Fey males that she's with, like, it's a message like, I know who you've got hidden in your warehouse apartment. I know what y'all are up to. So, Aelin and Rowan go capture a Valg infected guy. And Arabin doesn't know this, but Aelin and Rowan pick a guy who a Valg who doesn't seem to have very good control over the guy he's possessing. And so they actually get to talk to the human inside. And the human's like, please kill me. I've done too much terrible shit. I'm in a prison, please kill me. And they essentially make him an offer. They say, if you help us, if you help us trick this guy Arabin, we'll make sure that you die. Like, help us forward our goals. And the guy agrees. The guy's like, if you put me out of my misery, I will I will do what I need to. So, um, they go to this dinner. There's a lot of stuff that happens during this dinner. There's a lot of like little messages that are being sent from Arabin all around the room. And one of my favorite parts ever, and there's a teehee about this, so I'm not going to go to the full quote, is when he like wants her to wear this almond perfume,
Oh yeah.
and it's like it's a power play, and it makes Aelin feel gross. She doesn't want to wear it, but she does because it's a test from Arabin.
Hmm.
And Rowan ends up wearing the almond perfume too, and he's like, "Oh, thank you so much, Arabin. My skin was kind of dry." Like he doesn't
Yeah.
give a single fuck. And I'm like,
Oh, it was like a soap or an oil or
it
something.
was, yeah, it was an almond oil, and he
Yeah.
put it on and was like, it basically was like, "Oh, thank you so much, Arabin. My skin was super dry." And Aelin didn't even know that he had done that. So
That is
it was
so
this
funny.
beautiful moment of like solidarity with her. Anyway, so they kill the Valg. Arabin thinks that he's gotten some answers from this Valg guy. What he doesn't know is the guy inside of him lied. But he Arabin ends up giving Aelin the Amulet of Warmth, but based on the false information that the fake Valg gave to Arabin, he slips an obsidian ring on her finger and licks a bit of her blood off of her. He cuts her palm and licks it, and he thinks that's going to give him power over her.
Yeah.
And this is where we see the true the depth of the depravity of Arabin Hamel,
Yeah.
which is he puts the obsidian ring on, thinking it's real, and now he thinks he controls Aelin. And Aelin goes
So,
along with it.
oof. Yeah.
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 Aelin goes along with it. He says blink, she blinks. He says smile, she smiles. And the creepiest part, in my opinion, is when he says, say I love you.
Oh
And
my
she says,
god,
I love
yeah.
you. And then he goes, say my name when you tell me you love me. And she goes, I love you, Arabin Hamel. And he like gives her a kiss on the neck. I wanted to, I was like, ah, God, I like,
Yeah, that's
you're,
really bad.
oh, and she's playing the part. She's playing the part.
Yeah.
So as she leaves, he basically gives her these directions. She's like, tell no one that we've spoken of this. He's basically like, she's my little minion now. He touches her ass as she leaves. Like he's like, oh God, it's disgusting. And so, literally, and so Aelin pretends all the way back to the warehouse because she doesn't trust. She does not want anybody saying that she's anything but possessed by
Right.
this ring. She rides all the way home like a zombie. She gets into the apartment and then the facade falls off and she's like, holy shit. And in the midst of that dinner, she gave Lysandra the green light to kill him. She's like,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a dead man walking. And so Aelin and Rowan go to the roof of the warehouse and they're basically waiting for Lysandra to kill him. It's going to happen sometime during the night because Arabin and Lysandra, well, Arabin pays to have sex with Lysandra, and so they know
Yeah.
that she's going to do that. Um, and in a move that to me was such a sign of Aelin's growth, and I was so sad. Even the third time reading it, she basically in her head is like, life is too fucking short. I don't know why I'm lying to myself and
Yes.
acting like this isn't a thing. And she goes to kiss Rowan and he says, don't touch me like that. And what we
Oh my
know, if
goodness.
we're in Rowan's perspective, he really was just kind of taken aback by it and felt guilty, and it was feeling a lot of emotions about like his previous mate Lyria who had
Mm.
died. And so he's
Yeah.
going through it. He wants to, he's into it, but he's just taken aback.
Yeah.
But all she hears is, don't touch me like that.
Right.
And
I
this
mean,
shakes, it
that's
shakes up
literally
Aelin.
being denied.
She was rejected by
Yeah.
Rowan, um, and it really shakes her up. And she it kind of puts her in a tailspin for a little bit, and
Yeah.
it drives a wedge between her and Rowan for a little bit because she's obviously hurt and needs to deal with that. But there are more things afoot than just their relationship, so they have to like get their game face on.
Yeah.
And the morning after Lysandra murders Arabin, which she does a kick-ass job. She slits this man's throat and she lets his blood like spurt everywhere. I'm like, yes, Lysandra, go, Lysandra. So as they knew they would be, Rowan, Aelin, and Adian are called to the Assassin's Keep because Arabin has been murdered and they're trying to figure out who it is. Now
Yeah.
Aelin and friends all know that it's Lysandra, but they all have to put on a good act.
Yeah.
So Salin,
So
Aelin adopts the persona of Selena. I
got it.
was going for Selena and Aelin at the same time. Uh, and the full extent of her schemes comes to light. That all these little meetings and little sneaky things she's been doing have been in preparation for this moment. She had
Yes.
Arabin's will changed so that she would be the beneficiary of his estate. The fight in the pitch she did was to lure investors to the estate that she would then inherit. Her trips to talk to the master of the bank were to arrange contracts for this moment. And there was a night she came back to the apartment smelling like cinders and no one kind of knew where she was. She was arranging this moment right here. All of it was so that she could
Yes.
inherit a big ass estate from Arabin. And everybody, this whole book, including Kale, who've been like, where's your money? Where's your fucking army? She's like, here's my money, assholes. Like, suck it. And
Yeah.
she's
She was
it was
plotting.
incredible. It was
Yeah.
incredible to watch her, all the pieces of her plan come together. It was also, I think, a shock for the people that she was with to see her back in her Selena role. But she played it perfectly. And now
Yeah.
she's wealthy because
That was
she did all
awesome.
this. Yeah. So that is the end of Aelin and Friends narrative in part one of the book. Um, and we're gonna switch perspectives to Manon. Don't let me say Manon. Manon and a lead. Were there any thoughts at the end of like where we leave off Aelin and friends?
I mean, I think seeing everything that she had to plan out and do, and you can see how really she could not risk any of this going wrong by telling
Mm,
anybody, either for help or just having them know part of the process, because everything needed to be kept such a secret and really needed to be perfect in the details to be in this moment. So
mm.
I was happy that everything kind of turned out that way. And, it was definitely an effort. And I was shocked.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it, it it was masterful. It was masterful writing, and I think also masterful of Aelin to be putting all these things together.
yeah, the
It
fact
was
that she
just
thought
crazy.
about every single of those details and like trying to do all
Oh,
that.
yeah. Wild.
What a way to
Wild.
shock the reader.
Well, and all her friends who were like, "What the fuck, Aelin?"
Yeah.
You're like, Wait, what?" So it was really cool to see. Now,
Yeah.
all the way in Morath with the Iron Teeth Witches and Duke Parrington and all the sketchy happenings in the mountains. There we find Manon Blackbeak, the heir to the Blackbeak clan. And now, if you remember, they've won the war games. She is the wing leader, and she and her 13 are serving under Duke Parrington and spying for him, sort of in the area, different communities. And what she doesn't totally understand is that they're testing out Kaltain's powers.
Mm,
They're finding magic wielders to infect with Valg. Like there's schemes here that she doesn't understand. But Duke Parrington essentially treats them like, he just tells them where to go and who to fuck up, and they go and do it.
right.
Um, and as we saw in the previous books, Manon hasn't totally let go of kind of her role, or like she's in her role. She believes in sort of the values of the witch covens, but she's starting to feel uncomfortable.
Mm,
She's starting to question what all is going on, and she does not like the Duke. The Duke is a misogynist. He's gross. He's disgusting, and she's grates at the fact that she has to, serve the Duke. She also doesn't trust any of the men or the food that smell odd in Morath. She knows something's off, and so don't the 13 in their own way. And nobody displays their discontent more than Astrid, her cousin and her number two.
mhm.
She is starting to question what is going on. Why are they serving these people? What is happening? Should they be doing this? Um, and there's a lot of tension between Manon and Astrid about it. Manon's like, get in line. Astrid's like, what the fuck is going on? Um, in addition to what's happening among the witches, we see developments in what's going on with Kaltain, and we even get her perspective at a few different points. But I'm kind of just going to weave her narrative into Manon and Elide's. Um, Kaltain now has a black collar around her neck, similar to what Dorian's got going on, and clearly is being abused by the Duke
Mm,
physically, sexually, mentally. You could tell that he's taken her as his bride, but that is it's he's enslaving her in every kind
yeah.
of possible way.
And she's almost like a zombie in a lot of the interactions, when the witches see her and all of that. Like, it's like she has no type of reaction and she just kind of goes off and, yeah,
Hmm.
very zombie like.
Yes, and she it's the lights are on but nobody's home kind of thing,
Yeah.
which again is very, if you look at what we learned from Dorian's perspective, the way that Valg possess people, it's a struggle for control, and sometimes the person just isn't fucking there.
Yeah.
Um, and we see Kaltain through Manon's eyes and Elide's, and we get her perspective. So she's kind of in and out, but something she's being used in various ways, and you could see the toll it's taking kind of on her human body. Um, In addition to some of the Caltaine stuff, Duke Parrington and Lord Vernon, who again, Lord Vernon Locken is a lead's uncle, also creepy asshole. They summon Manon to tell her that they are wanting to run experiments by creating offspring between witches and Valg, and that Manon is going to pick a coven of black beak witches for their experimenting. Asterin does not like this. She's
Yeah.
like, you can't get, what are we, like brood mares? Like, you can't do this to our people. And
Yeah.
Manon demotes Asterin to her third because she won't stop. She won't let up. So Sorrel, who's usually her third, now her second, um, goes to Manon and says, "Hey, we're all, everybody's kind of on edge, and nobody's really sure about the switch from for Astrid and Sorrel as second and third. So Manon's really stuck in a rock and a hard place situation because she doesn't she feels like she can't disobey the duke or her grandmother who are
Yeah.
breathing down her neck, but her 13, you could tell there's rumblings that this isn't sitting well with them, and especially with Astrid.
Yeah.
um and this marks a series of events where uh the 13 are at odds with Manon, and they're never that outspoken about it. um but Manon, the lack of faith that they show in her at a couple of key points causes Manon to start to question her upbringing by her grandmother and the ideals of the Iron Teeth witches. And the moment that keeps playing in her head is when she killed the Croken witch in a previous book. And the Croken witch basically was like, "We pity you because you're not born this way, you're made this way." So the word like made, made,
Hmm.
made keeps playing over and over in her head. Um, while she's dealing with the witch stuff and Duke Parrington stuff and the Caltaine stuff, Manon meets a lead Locken, who is, as I mentioned, Vernon's niece. She is described as short, like a sort of a petite woman with dark black hair, or very dark hair, and pale skin. And she has a pretty bad limp because she has an ankle that got an injury in childhood, and Vernon never had it fixed, so she perpetually is sort of in pain and limping around.
Mm.
And because this is how she appears in her sort of like physical appearance, a lead puts on a very good mask of being this demure, stuttering, quiet, sort of stupid figure. She even binds her breasts so that she looks younger and
Mm.
smaller than she is. And she's very good at it. She's very perceptive. She's always tracking what people are thinking or sort of seeing with her. But Manon sees right through her bullshit. Manon's like, this girl's pretending to be like this like scared little girl she's not. And interestingly, she tastes her Alid's blood at one point because she kind of scratches her and then licks her blood off of her iron nail. And she tastes that Alid has witch blood.
Yeah.
Alid is part witch. And so it's an interesting thing to see the dynamic between Manon and a lead unfold, because it's this like begrudging sort of interactions that they have, but it kind of turns into something a little bit more as we go down the narrative. um so Manon calls a lead out for her act. And we learned that the lady of Paranth, who was Marion Locken, which, if we're using our SJM red string and
Corkboard.
corkboard head, Marion Locken was the person who saved Aelin the night that the Valg came for her and she fell into that river.
Mm.
Marion was the maiden who saved her. So Elid's mother saved Aelin.
Got
Um,
it.
and
Yeah.
and her dad was Lord Locken. After her parents were murdered, she was imprisoned at Paranth for many years. However, She was only under the care of her like chambermaid, and neither her or her chambermaid knew how to read. So she can't read. And her education stopped at 8 years old. So she has to use whatever tools she's got around her, and her ability to read people and read situations is a part of those tools. Manon sees her for what she is. Manon's like, this girl's scheming. I don't know what she's up to, but she's scheming her schemes. So she tells the 13 to watch a lead. And she's basically like, look out for this girl. She's up to something. I don't like it. Make sure you watch her, watch how she moves. So Astrid has a conversation with a lead. And Astrid essentially tells her that she's a witch through her mother's line, because witch blood only travels through the mother's line. And Alid doesn't really want to believe it, but she's realizing that that might be why Vernon brought her to Morath. All of a sudden, her Uncle Vernon is a bad guy, and a bad guy who is scheming. So she runs to take some money from the witches because she's like, I'm getting out of here. And Astrid and Manon catch her.
Yeah.
And Manon's basically like, you need to declare allegiance to the humans or the witches. Pick one. And Alid picks allegiance with the witches, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, okay, she picks allegiance with the witches, and then, you know, based on her history and what she's got going for her life, what is she supposed to do then? I feel like she would be a
Hmm.
little lost.
Well, that's the thing. It's like she's got to pick protection in this moment, but like long term plan. To your point, what does
Right.
this mean?
Are y'all putting her in in
In flight leathers, and we're going on a wyvern.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she picks the witches out of desperation.
Right.
And we see that Ali doesn't have like emotional allegiance totally to them. It's an allegiance of convenience, if you will. Like I'm gonna align with y'all because I get the sense Uncle Vernon's gonna come bring me to the dungeons anytime now, and I need someone to look out for me. So a lead starts like basically uh spying for them, but we'll get to that. So along with the elite developments, we continue with Manon, who is chafing against these orders that she's getting from Duke Parrington and Elid's uncle. And they basically are like, you give us a Blackbeak coven right now, or we're gonna fuck shit up. And they try to convince her by being like, listen, you just put a stone in your belly, and then you have a little Valg witch baby. It's not that bad. And Manon's like, that sounds like exactly the kind of shit a man would say. That is a comment she makes, not in the fashion I just did, but she's like, that sounds like some man logic right there.
Yeah, he mansplained it.
Oh,
He's like, you just put
he
this in there and
uh-huh.
something comes out.
Yeah, which honestly, classic. Just classic. Like, it's not that bad. Here, just do this, and it's just like, she could see that trick a mile away.
Yeah.
So luckily for Manon, a Yellow Legs coven of the Baba Yellow Legs variety volunteers, and she offers them. She offers a Yellow Legs coven instead of a
Blackbeak.
Blackbeak coven, which kind of assuages people a little bit, but they're pissed. They're like, we wanted Blackbeaks. And she's like, yeah, but these Yellow Legs are happy to do it. What's your problem?
Yeah.
So Vernon doesn't really have an excuse, and Parrington doesn't either. So they take the Yellow Legs. And as they're experimenting on these Yellow Legs, Manon, Manon, Manon is starting to wonder where the Yellow Legs are, what they're doing, and she starts to kind of wander around the castle and see if she can't figure out information about Caltain's whereabouts and what's going on with these other witches. So she finds Caltain, but interestingly, um, Caltain has started to experiment with something called shadow fire. It's like fire, except it's black and it burns you from the inside, and you don't like, it doesn't burn like real fire does. And it's disturbing to watch.
Yeah.
And what we learn is that originally, and this was so interesting to me, that originally Kaltain had fire magic, just fire magic, like Aelin had fire magic. But with all that's been done to her, it's been morphed into shadow fire.
Which I think is so cool. Aside from it being bad, I think it's so cool and interesting. And I liked seeing kind of Caltaine be back part of what was going on in the books. And, it sucks for what she's going through, but I think her power is really interesting.
Yes, I agree. I almost wondered, and I don't know this, I almost wondered if Kaltain was a depiction of what Aelin could have become if she had not had any kind of support or help. Like, I don't think it's any mistake that Kaltain and Aelin both have fire magic. That, like,
Yeah.
if you are traumatized enough and you don't have any kind of support or love or somebody to connect with or some kind of gentleness, what would have happened to Aelin, right? Like, people
Yeah.
constantly worry about her being too cruel or too brash, and in some ways, I think Kaltain is a representation of a version, if in a different world, what Aelin could have been if
Yeah.
she didn't have anybody.
And honestly, that when you really think about that concept, that's really what creates villains overall.
Mhm.
And, I think my empathetic side and my counselor side is that's why I love villains because
Mhm.
they start off from a place and then they end up being who they become as the villain of the story. And it's usually because of what they've been through. So that is what I see going on here. And that's how I can empathetically connect to someone who kind of went to the dark side, you know?
Mm. Well, and it's all coming out of hurt, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you can, e- e- there are reasons why people do the things they do, for the most part, even things that are hurtful to themselves or other people, like, there's reasons. So it's always, I feel similarly. My heart goes out to villains, a little bit, and even, like, you heard me shit talk Arabin a bunch today, but I'm sure if you had given me Arabin's history in some way, I could pull some kind of empathy.
We need to
We
see
don't
his
get any of that.
childhood and what he went through. And
Yeah, like, I mean, still, like, want to friggin'. I'm so glad Lysander killed him. He's gross, but,
yeah,
like,
he's definitely a creep.
oh, 1,000,000%. Well, and Alan makes several comments that he loves control. And so that's the piece for me. It's like, w- why are you hounding for control so much? Like,
Yeah.
if you start to have curiosity, I think it helps people to be more understood. Like, oh, I don't like what you're doing and I hate this, but I can put the pieces together of how you got here.
Right.
Um, Now, I'm still glad Erwin's dead, but for Kaltain, for Kaltain, I think we see some parallels with her fire magic and Aelin's fire magic.
Yeah.
So Kaltain is using her shadow fire. Duke Parrington and Vernon are up to no good. And Alide, because she has started to because she declared her allegiance to the witches, starts seeking shelter with the 13, and is basically hiding from being alone with her uncle, or being kind of stolen by her uncle and brought somewhere. But Manon, being her cold, cruel self, uh, big air quotes on some of that, tells the lead, you basically have to earn your keep. Like, you're not just going to lay here and we're going to, like, do everything for you. So I want you to go where the yellow legs are being kept and see what's going on, because they won't let me in there. And a lead, being literally like such a schemer, so smart, so badass, spends weeks, like, she's like, okay, I'm gonna scheme my way into a job as a laundress, then I'm gonna poison the laundress who usually brings the sheets to this place. She gets in there, and she sees that the yellow legs are being kept in a dungeon, and it is
Oh
horrific.
my
The
god.
Valg babies, the Valg witch babies, are these black, demonic looking, like black teeth, serpentine faces. They're monsters.
Oh my
And the
god.
yellow legs are begging and crying to be let out. They don't want to be a part of this anymore, and they're being held against their will. And once a lead brings this news, Astrid loses her shit. And she yells something which rings out in Manon's head over time, which is, "You let this happen. You let this happen." Manon upholds what her grandma said and said, the yellow legs volunteered for this. But it's interesting because her and Alid have a conversation. And Alid, I think, chastises her a bit and is like, "Listen, you might want to think twice about all this shit that all this Kool-Aid you've been drinking."
Mm.
Now she doesn't say it that strong, but and in Alid's defense, Manon is asking her. She's asking her questions, but it's a real, I think, wake up moment for Manon.
Yeah, and in that moment where Astrid says that, Manon responds to her saying, Manon snarled, "Has your heart softened?" The voice might as
Mm,
well have been her grandmother's. So here we see how Manon is showing like no empathy for what's
mm,
happening to the witches and the inability to comfort her second or used to be second
mm,
and like she has no empathy to comfort her in that moment and have the ability to see really what's going on and move her grandma's kind of vision to the side and just be
mm.
like a normal person.
Yes, she's fighting it. She's fighting it hard.
Yeah.
And I think those iron teeth values just keep playing over and over again. It's like obedience, brutality, discipline, obedience, brutality, discipline. And I think Astrid and her 13 are catching on faster than she is, that
Yeah. And if
something's wrong.
And if your group is crumbling and not following the same vision that you have, like as a leader, you're trying to
Mm,
uphold that, obviously. I can see
mm.
that. But your group and your 13 are not there. And you have to understand what's going on with them and maybe see where they're coming from and see what
Oh,
they're feeling.
maybe the value of empathy and self-reflection would be important here.
Yeah.
Like, if we were to create our own Iron Teeth Witch coven, maybe our values would be reflection and humility. We wouldn't I don't
Yeah.
think we'd survive very long as an Iron Tooth Witch if
And
those were our values, but
And
you know.
if her like 13 witches were part of what the experiments and all of that, if her group
Mm,
was part of what was going on, I'm sure she would feel differently. But because they're the yellow legs, it's like, oh, they signed up for it, like whatever. Um,
mhm.
it's just a lack of empathy for sure in her part, which it's what she grew up to kind of have as her mantra, but it's just not like feasible.
Yeah. And I think deep down, Manon feels that something's wrong. Like, deep down, you see the emotions pulling at her, and she just refuses to acknowledge them. So, that is where we leave Manon and Alid at part one of Queen of Shadows. We've got uh, all kinds of dissent between the 13. We've got a lead who's, joined the witches as a black beak witch, and stuff's happening over at Morath as well as Rifthold, and that encapsulates part one of Queen of Shadows.
Yes,
Um,
lots of stuff going on.
s- Girl, so much, and it's so intense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get this feeling, but I just feel like the intensity and the importance of each scene is so well paced. Like, there's no scene in my mind that there's like extraneous stuff going on that we don't need. Like, it all of it is building, which feels really cool.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
now,
Uh-huh.
what do we get into now? Our
Well,
teehee
oh, bear,
moments.
bear, 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 bear.
Even through everything that we've read so far, there are some teehee moments.
Oh, there definitely are. Do we want to take like a little baby break before we go into teehee moments,
Oh,
or
yes.
yeah. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little baby break, take a little breather, listen to our theme music, and then when we come back, we will tee our way through the next portion. See you then.
All right. All right, we're back from our break, and
Yeah.
now we are gonna get into our teehee moments.
Tee.
So I will go through my teehee moments because they're a little bit shorter than Katie's.
Listen, I like the full quote. I had a crop this time around.
Okay, yeah.
I think the YA, what makes it for YA spice has really set into my bones. Like I'm like, okay, I'm in the YA mind space now, so I can spot it when it happens.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that you had so many. I feel like I had to grab as much
You
as I
had
could
to
because
I had
yeah,
to go back to my, like, high school I'm reading Twilight self. Like,
it's
I had to
true.
return to a different mind state when, he would, like, brush her arm, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, they touched." So, I just channeled that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so my first one is from page 233. Aylin was laughing as she cried, and the male was just holding her, his hooded head buried in her neck, as if he was breathing her in. I love the idea of someone breathing me in.
Oh my god, and, like, being having your head buried in my neck,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's like you know that hug, you know those hugs that are just, like, soul life-giving? Like,
Yeah.
he was holding her and putting his face in her neck, and ugh, and you know, even though she was, like, in the sewer or some shit, I think she was at a bar, she's gonna smell like embers and citrus or whatever,
Of
like,
course, always.
yeah, and he smells of pine and snow, and it's just like, ugh, it was I had that one
Yeah.
too, and, it was such a
Mm.
good moment.
Yes. My next one is page 237. Take off your hood, he said with
Ooh.
a soft growl, his eyes
Mm.
fixed on her mouth. She crossed her arms. You show me yours, and I'll show you mine, Prince. So a little back and
Ooh.
forth, a little back and forth.
Little saucy, like, "You show me yours and I'll show you mine," like, "Girl,
Yeah.
easy."
I think it's interesting when they put that someone growls, you know?
Mm. Mhm.
I just imagine like a little like wolf or a little I don't know,
Do
like
you
a
know
bear or something.
have you seen those compilations of, Henry Cavill growling
Oh.
as The Witcher?
Oh, I love The Witcher. Oh my gosh, I love him in
Those are the
that.
growls, because I think there's a way to do a growl that's, like, really corny.
Yeah.
He growls, and I'm paying attention. I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Ooh,
god.
there he
I love
is."
him in that so much.
So just look up, like, Henry Cavill growl compilation, in your spare time, and you'll see the kind of growl that goes through my head
Mm,
when
I
this is said,
gotta
and you know what? It does it for me.
Okay, okay. My next one is page 258. Is there a specific color you'd like me to wear? He says
Ooh.
then, gold, not yellow, real metallic gold. So that's when they're talking
Mm.
about the lingerie thing of
Oh, yeah.
what he would want her to wear, which is
But they're not
interesting.
gonna be together. They're totally not gonna be together,
It's just a visual.
but I'm just gonna tell you what kind of lingerie to wear. By the way, we're
What
not
color?
together. Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you what kinda negligee to buy.
And I remember her responding being like, "Oh, I wouldn't wear something like that," or like, "I wouldn't wear
Mhm.
like a tacky color like that."
But she does. She wears it in
She
the end,
does.
and I think she, like, borrows it from Lysandra. She's like, because well, I'm not gonna give anything away. I almost went too far, but he gets what he wants in the end.
Yes, yes, yes. Next one is page 283, and this is when I think he's saying this to Kale. And
Mhm.
if you ever speak to her again the way you did last night, I'll rip your tongue and shove it down your throat. Understand?
Ooh.
So, someone who's protective, who's going
Mhm.
to knock someone out if you need. I like that.
Oh, yeah. And like you're gonna like if you ever speak to her again that way, like ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh. Okay.
And my last one is page 369. He almost fallen to his knees when he'd first seen her earlier tonight. I think that's when she was
A
wearing like a dress.
yes, she was going to the dinner with Arabin and she
Yeah,
was in
yeah,
that
yeah.
black dress with the gold
And it
dragon.
and it was like backless, I think.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
She
so
was
that was
wearing it.
yeah,
And he
so
had commented that he wanted to see her in that dress earlier on
yeah.
in the book.
So those are my teehees. I'd love to hear your
Uh,
list.
Honestly, your crop is quite good. Like I several of the moments I also had similar moments. I'll supplement in a few extras. So on page 234, this is like their reunion with the nuzzling in the neck. He brushed back a loose strand of her hair, his callous fingers scraping against her cheek in the lightest caress. The gentleness of it made her choke on another sob. But you're not hurt, he said softly. You're safe. You want to know
Oh,
if I'm safe? You're worried about me and my safety? Okay, I accept it. I
that was a
accept
cute
it.
one.
Yeah, I honestly it warmed my heart. This one's a little bit more objectifying. This one's a little bit more you know,
Mm.
Aelin gets a view. So page 241, Aelin tried not to look too jolted by the sight of him with the towel wrapped around his hips, at the tan and muscled body that gleamed with oils of the bath, at the scars crisscrossing it like the stripes of a
Mm.
great cat.
I was
You're oiled up?
I
I'm sorry. You're oiled up? Oh.
was contemplating the towel moment to add it, but I was like, I don't know. But the way you
Mhm.
described it, I think that was a good one.
And like a man, he's oiled up and he's got scars all over him. He's a warrior. You're a warrior and you're standing there
Mm.
in your towel and you're oiled up and there's oil. Oh my god. Like I would have been flabbergasted.
Yeah,
I would have been twittipated,
yeah, and he probably had lots of
distracted.
muscles.
Right? And like, you know the look like you just get out of the shower or the bath and like your hair is mussed from that.
Oh
Like I
yeah,
got a vision
yeah,
of
yeah,
what
yeah.
I thought Rowan would have looked like and I was like, "Girl, I don't know how you're out here wearing lingerie in front of this man in your own bed and you're sleeping in your bed together." And he's oiled up and but we're just going to look. Okay, sure. All right.
You
Sounds
know,
good.
it's part of the bit,
Choices.
I guess.
Yeah. You know, it's just a part of the thing. So we but I liked that view. Um on page 259, Rowan is thinking to himself. He says, 30 minutes later, Rowan was still staring up at the ceiling, teeth gritted as he calmed the roaring in his veins that was steadily shredding through his self control. That God's damn nightgown. Shit. He was in such deep, unending shit. You you're just trying to like your teeth are clenched. You want to shred like through your self control. You see the nightgown. I was here for it.
That's how everyone should want you. Like that's
Oh,
how everyone should react. You're like gnawing at the walls and like
yeah. You want to. You're like clawing at the inside of your
yeah.
own self control just by the sight of
Yeah.
me. Like
In a little nightgown. Like it's not even like
sh-
anything that
she's just like
exposing.
these are my PJs. These are just my gym jams. Okay, and that's what it makes you. Okay, hell yeah, hell
Mm.
yeah. Um. Okay. I'll pick two more because I feel like I got to wrap it up here. But um, one was a little like anger but heat moment. So page 306, and Aelin starts speaking. She says, "The next time I sneak out," she seethed, "if I catch you following me like some overprotective nursemaid, I will." And then Rowan cuts her off and goes, "You'll what?" He stepped up close enough to share breath with her, his fangs flashing. He
Ooh.
snarled, and the sound stroked down her skin as she read the unspoken words in his eyes.
I love the fangs.
Ooh, like she's trying to be saucy, and then he's like, "You'll do what? What exactly are you going to do?" I'm like,
Mm.
"Shit." Rowan. I don't know.
All right then.
All
All
right.
right.
All right. Power. Real recognizes real. I see you. I was trying to make some kind of statement, but you're like stepping up to me. I'm here for it. And then the last one, page 340. And I think this is the she steps out in that dress,
The
that black
dress, yeah.
dress. With the burning weight of Rowan's attention upon her, she turned to show them the back, the roaring golden dragon clawing up her body. She looked over her shoulder in time to see Rowan's eyes again slide south and linger. Slowly, his gaze lifted to hers, and she could have sworn that hunger, ravenous hunger, flickered there.
He's hungry.
He's
Someone's got to feed
hungry.
him.
He's who is going to give this man a snack? Not Aelin, I'll tell you that. It ain't Aelin.
I may have to volunteer for tribute
Yeah,
for
you know
this
what?
one.
Listen, I will take one. We'll take one for the team. We'll take one for the team. The man's hungry. What are we supposed to do? Just let a man starve?
Yeah,
Not on our watch. Something.
exactly.
Yeah, but yeah. You look at me with ravenous hunger. Okay. Yeah, I'm here for it. So
Yeah.
those were my teehees. And I truly, like, as we're going through them, I feel like you and I have reacclimated to young adult. Like, we really struggled at the beginning. And I think you and
Yeah.
I now are like, we're coded for it. We're seeing it.
We add a little bit extra to it, and
Mm.
yeah,
We, the
it's
way we read it, we definitely, like, like, we definitely add a little sauce to it for sure.
for sure. So now that we've gone through our teehee moments, now we're gonna
Mm.
get into the therapy mind deep dive for
Yes.
this part one episode. So we're gonna go through some of the mental health topics that we see, and also I am going to go into Aylin's kind of character and some of those mental health themes and psychological analysis of her. In
Mm.
part two, we're gonna be I'll go over some other characters just so we can see what's going on with them. So as we see in Throne of Glass, this series touches a lot on trauma, but
Mm.
in Queen of Shadows, it deepens that, and we can see definitely more what some of the characters are going through and different aspects of mental health. So the first topic is PTSD, so post
Mm.
traumatic stress. So many of the characters show some of these PTSD symptoms: flashbacks, nightmares, hypervigilance, and disassociation. With Man in Blackbeak, Manon,
Oh, Manon.
Manon.
I really messed this up though. I fucked it up for us. Manon.
So with Manon Blackbeak, she begins to question the brutal nature or culture of the Iron Teeth witches. She's emotionally numb, as we've seen in some of the interactions.
Mm.
She's trained to suppress her empathy, as we can see,
Mm.
but begins experiencing cognitive dissonance, which is a real psychological response when one's values shift. So
Yeah.
we see her exploring that, and at least in this part one that we've covered a portion of her getting to that place, and then in part two, we'll definitely probably will see something grow in that.
Mm.
With Lysandra, she's freed from years of sexual slavery and manipulation. She navigates the early stages of emotional recovery. She's guarded, angry, and hesitant to trust. So that's what we see a lot in like the beginning of their relationship and with her and Aelin. It's almost like it was
Mm.
like a little frenemy situation, or they were kind of
Mm.
battling each other. Her journey mirrors that of many survivors of abuse, where it just, they go through a hard time, and, it's hard to kind of build that social support or the ability to see things in a different light. So
Mm.
I thought that was one first mental health topic. Another,
I really like that you highlight the lack of trust from Lysandra. I think that's a big one. Like in counseling, I've seen people like within the counseling space take a long time to build trust. Even like get a little bit vulnerable in the counseling space. So I think my I love that you bring this up because I would encourage folks who are like, well, I have a really hard time trusting, or I don't know if therapy's for me because I don't know if I could talk about some of this stuff with a counselor, and to like let you know that we are like fully trained and prepared for that. Like
Yeah.
we're one of our jobs as counselors is to build trust, and that takes time. So I love that we get that example in Lysandra of like you don't just get like freed from that and you're everything's all better now because the manipulation and the control isn't happening anymore. Like there's a process that happens after that point.
Yeah, so we see her growth and her and Aelin being able to actually help each other through the process now in this book. So
Mm,
I thought that was really nice to point out. And then we have the other theme of reclaiming the agency. So a core mental health theme is after someone experiences trauma, reclaiming that agency and that power is really difficult, and it's part of the process. So Aelin, Lysandra, and Manon all make choices that break cycles of control, and those are empowering moments for the characters. And also as we're reading that, it's like we
mm,
notice that shift in them. So, especially for survivors of abuse or oppression, seeing characters claim control of their own stories is incredibly validating and motivating to see that even in books like this we can see that happen and
yeah.
picture like the real life application of that.
Yeah, I like this because anytime someone's like, "Oh, well, you just read fantasy," or "Oh, you just read smut." This is such a great example of how many mental health themes come into play with fantasy and romantasy books, and how impactful reading fiction, and I'll just say it like the umbrella of fiction, can be for us getting a model of what a reclaiming agency can look like. So imagine if you're a person who the people in their life, or even for yourself, like you're not seeing folks claiming agency, or you don't have a good role model for something, and then you get to read a character who after abuse claims agency and resilience. Like that is such a powerful piece, I think, for readers who may not have examples of that in their day-to-day life.
Yeah. And the other mental health theme that was noticed in this book was emotional regulation and coping. So some of the characters display a variety of coping strategies. Some are healthy, some are not. So with Aelin, she often uses control and sarcasm as defense mechanisms. So if you can think about that one person in your life who's always very sarcastic and they use that as their way of
Mm.
kind of coping with life, it's
Mm.
not too
Or
great.
even like I'm a big person of like coping through humor, and that can be like really good. That also
Yeah.
can be really toxic if you're
Yeah, because
not,
people use like self-deprecating jokes, and
mm,
then, that sets the vibe of what's
yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we see Rowan, he encourages grounding. I love this for him.
Mm,
He a lot of, especially with the phase, they use like scent, touch, or connection, especially like the scent, like they have like specific things that they smell like.
mm,
And grounding is something that aligns with trauma informed therapy techniques to help you, especially if you feel like you're dissociating or going through a panic attack, things like that. Like focusing on grounding tools are really important, to help bring you back in the present moment. Um, and then we see Arabin.
mm,
He uses, his manipulation, um, of trauma responses like loyalty and fear. Like that's his way of manipulating others. And it mirrors how abusers exploit vulnerability. So we see that a lot with his relationship with Aylin, how she feels still like, well, not so much in this book, but maybe in the previous ones or in like the initial, of their relationship, is where she felt still some type of alignment towards him and loyalty. And I remember us discussing where she almost felt surprised by his actions, and
Mm,
couldn't believe that he would do something like what he did. So
mm.
that is the ultimate manipulation of an abuser, and that's how, we can see what's going on.
And I
So
think it's a good example of how people can mix up control with love. And I think Arabin is the end result of, if you believe that love is control, then that is the core of that abuse.
right.
And for Arabin, and both Lysandra and Aelin say this, for Arabin it is about control. He almost, it seems like, can't love properly unless it's about control, which is not love at all.
Yeah.
And so I like that you get to glimpse the most depraved part of Arabin in the, like, when he controls her with the, or thinks he's controlling her with the
Mhm.
obsidian ring.
Yeah.
It's an example of, like, this is where that leads. Like, if
Yeah.
love is control to you, this is the end result of that, and look how, like, hair raising that is. And
Yeah.
um so really being mindful that we don't get those conflated.
Yeah, and that's why, discussing these mental health topics that are occurring in these books, especially for young readers navigating the
Mm,
boundaries and the trust and relationships. Like, you can pick up Throne of Glass because you see it on Book Talk and all of that, but you don't see all of these themes that are actually going on in the book that not many people talk about. People just talk about it being like a god tier series and something that they really love, but some
mm,
this stuff is really heavy, and you got to be able to cope with it. And if you go in kind of blindsided, like, you could really go have a hard time discussing and like reading these books. So
mm.
that's why what we do, I think, is a good thing.
Yes.
um so we're gonna kind of talk about Aelin Galathinius. So
Mm,
she is a character that is shaped by extraordinary trauma, and here in Queen of Shadows, we see how she shifts from assassin to queen, both literally and psychologically.
mm,
And that evolution is at the heart of her inner journey and her experience through this situation. So we see that her arc is rooted in identity integration, where she no longer compartmentalizes Selena, the assassin, and Aelin, the queen. So now she's kind of fully in her identity of Aelin, being the queen, and now, she brings up being Selena in that one scenario in this book, but
mm.
that's not really who she wants to be anymore. Um,
And I think what's interesting about when you see Selena from the outside, from people who didn't know her as Selena, so Rowan, Adian, it's shocking to see her, this earlier version of herself, that doesn't incorporate her softness, her and she's not a terribly, like, soft person as a whole, but she is soft to that, like, comparing Aelin to Selena,
yeah,
you have an acceptance of her as a whole, her own self acceptance, and the gentleness. There's a gentleness or warmth about her as Aelin, that I think only happens when you accept all the parts of yourself and allow yourself to be vulnerable to these pieces that previous to this she had been scared to
yeah.
discover.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention, that this emotional journey that she's been through is a metaphor for her healing, and
Mm,
not erasing what she's been through, but more accepting what she's been through, and being able to confront her trauma, guilt, and inner darkness to model something that a lot of trauma survivors strive for, which is wholeness, accepting every part of yourself, not needing to be a intense or unemotional person, or someone who is very kind of like Manon, where it's like she's in the beginning of that journey of like kind of being able to accept some other experiences aside from just being like the obedience and all of that.
yeah.
So she is going through that. She went through the identity integration. And then we see something called shadow work, which is interesting. And you learn that a lot in the beginning of kind of like psych, when you're learning about all the different theorists. So Jung is someone who who founded the Jungian psychology, where you face your shadow self for necessary growth. And Aylin's ability to harness and restrain her lethal skills shows maturity, where she's not just like assassinating everyone that she sees.
Mm.
Um, so she's no longer ruled by that vengeance, even when it's,
Mm.
you know, it would justify, but she's not choosing to do that. So she literally and emotionally faces her shadows, her past deeds as assassin, her guilt over Nehemiah's death, and her unresolved rage toward Arabin.
Mm. And it's so interesting that you bring in shadow work because I can even think of times in Air of Fire where literally that's what she was doing. Like, and it was, sort of enforced by the Valg, but her digging down into these parts of herself and looking with honesty and compassion at every part of herself. And that's such a huge part in the counseling space. This shadow work centers around knowing yourself and around being compassionate when you know yourself. I think when folks do shadow work, there's this like eh, pull toward judgment, like, oh my God,
Right.
I didn't realize I thought that or that was in there. How could I? Da 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 da. But such an important part of exploring these parts of ourselves that are can be really hard to look at is a compassion and mercy and kindness, to be able to view them without being overly harsh with yourself.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good, especially because it's like Queen of Shadows, the name of the book. So it
Mm,
makes sense.
yeah.
And the other kind of analysis we see of her is dealing with the grief, guilt, and survivor's remorse. So Aelin still grieves for Nehemia and thinks about her often, as well as Sam and the guilt over their deaths. So throughout the book, you can sense that she carries the weight of the people she couldn't save, and that manifests in her need for control and her frequent emotional shutdown. So we can probably see that as her kind of doing everything on her own, not needing to tell people what she's doing because of her need to control. And in the previous a quote that we said earlier was where she feels a lot of pressure of needing, like where
Mm,
one wrong move or one wrong word can lead to other people's deaths. So that's a lot of the situation that she's going through. And with survivor's guilt, she kind of questions why she's alive when so many others have suffered or died. So
mm,
rather than letting that consume her, she kind of channels that to purpose, rebuilding Terrason, protecting her people, not kind of erasing what she's been through, but more as a way to empower her and motivate her. So
mm.
that is
I
overall the analysis that we see for Aelin.
Yeah. I think your point about the fact that when we do like trauma work with people, it isn't about pretending like something doesn't exist or erasing a scar or making it like it was never there or even with like forgiveness, like pretending like nothing's wrong. It's not about denying the reality of hurts, right? It's being able to see the hurts, to feel them like in your body, to be like, okay, something's coming up for me and I'm having a strong reaction or a strong emotion. Where am I feeling it? What triggered it? And to use those experiences and your own processing to help you to have a fulfilled life, to be able to if you need to feel those emotional scars or if something pops up that triggers you, that's okay. And we get agency over to how we decide to process that and move forward with it. Um, I know that for so many with trauma, it's like, I just wish this would never be a problem for me again, or that I would never have to think about this again. So being able to say like, okay, how can we accept kind of what comes up in our mind and our body sometimes and help ourselves be more fulfilled or more resilient through it.
Yeah.
I love this. I like the whole breakdown of Aylin's character. Every time I read this, it she becomes more and more nuanced, more and more complex to me. And I love that you've brought in, I think, so many elements of what makes her her. Like what makes her
Hmm.
such a compelling female main character.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So that is going to wrap up our analysis of part 1 of Queen of Shadows. If any of today's topics were triggering or upsetting, and they might have been, a lot of really impactful stuff came up, please make sure to seek out your own individualized mental health treatment. And remember, this podcast is for fun. It's based on our own opinions and experiences, and you should not be using this for diagnosing, assessing, or treating mental health conditions. Additionally, our next episode out on September 24th will cover part 2 of Queen of Shadows. And if you'd like to support us or interact with us, please make sure to subscribe and rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at FayandFablesPod. Email us at fayandfablespod@gmail.com. And yeah, thank you for
And buy our
listening.
merch.
Oh, girl, we got to put a note in there because you're like the merch. You're the merch lady. You're like, and the merch. Yeah, she's putting
Yes, I'm putting in the note right now.
in
And buy
all
our
caps.
merch.
Buy our merch. Yeah, on Etsy we have a merch shop. If you go to our Instagram, there's a link tree there. It'll take you to the Etsy. We both have Fan Fables t-shirts,
Yeah.
and they are so comfy. We wanted to like buy them before we promoted that anyone else do because we wanted to make sure that the product was good and that it came the way we wanted it to.
Yeah.
Very size inclusive, and really comfy. And just literally yesterday, I was wearing mine proudly as I was going about
Oh.
the town. Yeah, I was. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it, and
Yeah.
we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.